Okay, so wondrous women of war. But before we talk about the women of war, we have to have a little bit of some background.
And everyone know what the title is, by the way, for the first time.
So we're going to be talking about Parsha Zachor. It's seasonal, and hopefully we'll get a little bit to the Megillah, a teeny bit. So the first question that we're going to ask is, what is the mitzvah of Parshas of Zachor? Right? The pasuk says in Parshat Kisei, Zachor eis asher asacha Amalek. So what does that mean? What do you have to do exactly? Do you need to read it in the Sefer Torah? Do you need a minyan? How many times a year? Now we all know that we have something called the Parshas Zachor. We go to shul and we do it in the Sefer Torah. But what is the strict law according to the Torah? What did the Torah obligate us when it says Zachor eis asher asacha Amalek? Now this is not the only time in the Torah that it says Zachor to remember something. Right? It also says by Miriam. You all know there are 6 mitzvahs of Zechiris. It says by Miriam also, remember what God did to Miriam in the Midbar. Well, I don't remember this called the Parshas Miriam. We all get together, and bring a Sefer Torah, and all the women come. Right? It also says Zachor Yom Shabbos. You know, it says Zachor Yom Shabbos. I think it even says it on the 10 Commandments. Zachor Yom Shabbos. Right? We don't have like 10 people getting together and a whole and going to shul and reading. Right? So, what is this? Okay, what is this exactly? Zachor Shatcha Amalek. So the Ramban in the Chumash already asked this, and he says, it is true that Zachor has to mean more than just thinking about it in your heart, because it says later on in the pasuk, Lo tishkach, Timcha Zeicha Amalek Tachshamayim, Lo tishkach. Don't forget about Amalek. So this is already Gemara. The Gemara says, so what's Zachor? So Zachor means bepeh. Lo tishkach means in your heart. But the extra word Zachor is telling you it's mitzvah essay bepeh. You have to actually iterate something. You have to actually mention something. Okay. So says the Ramban, okay, but lo yidati ma yischira bepeh. What do you exactly have to say? He says, is it that you have to go to shul and read Parshas Zachor like we do? Is that what it is? He says it's hard to believe. He says, V'nachem beinai, says the Ramban, he believes that the mitzvah is, don't forget what Amalek did, and tell it to your children. That's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to make sure that each generation or your children know what Amalek did. And that's it. And they bring the proof. By Miriam, it also says Zachor. And by Miriam, you don't got no special din of going to shul, a special din of minyan. So what does it mean by Miriam when it says, remember what happened to Miriam? It means tell your children, don't speak Lashon Hara. That's what it means. Tell your children, do not speak Lashon Hara. Teach, open up a Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation. Right? Teach the world how Lashon Hara is a bad thing to do. Zechem b'maisa Miriam, nistavnu le'idiyah levanenu le'saper b'ledoris. Right? And that's it. That's it. So according to Ramban, very clear, this, that we go to shul with some minyan and a Sefer Torah, that all is rabbinical. The only thing that is deraisa is tell your kids, tell your talmidim, you don't need a minyan, you don't got to be a special Shabbos. That's what the Ramban holds. Now, I don't know how to answer this question. So according to Ramban, so why did the rabbis by Parshas Amalek, the rabbi said, we have to make this something more concrete. We're going to make a special Parshas Zachor, we're going to make a minyan, and we're going to go to shul for this. Why by Miriam, for the issue of Lashon Hara, the rabbis didn't enact all these extras? I don't have an answer for that. But according to the Ramban, Deraisa, all you have to do is teach it to your kids, the concept of Amalek, nothing else.
One of the Zechirs we have is Yetziat Mitzrayim. Over there, it definitely gives you a pasuk to tell you to say it over here.
Right. Okay, good question. You're right. So, if you look at the Rambam and the Sefer HaMitzvahs, he seems pretty much like the Ramban. He doesn't mention there, right, Sefer Mitzvahs. He goes through all the mitzvahs, gives a little bit of explanation of each mitzvah. And over there, he doesn't say one word about a minyan, doesn't say one word about a Sefer Torah. It seems a lot like the Ramban also. Just make sure your children know the Jewish history. Know that we have it out for Amalek.
When is that?
And again, Ramban doesn't seem that it doesn't have to be once a year. It can be maybe once every once every 5 years. Just make sure your kids get a Jewish education and they know about Amalek. That's what it seems.
So
now
you do
right,
that for the Rambam.
Right, and that's what it seems in the Rambam too. Okay. So, but on the other side of the equation, we have the Rush. The Rush seems to say everything is deraisa. You need a Sefer Torah deraisa, and you need a minyan deraisa. All this is deraisa. Why? Because we all know, we've all very familiar with this Gemara. If we learn Gittin and Babas, we've seen this Gemara. We know there's a story. Ma'aser Rabbi Eliezer, that he came to shul. And what happened? Surprisingly, there were not 10 people for a minyan. Right? He couldn't find 10 people for a minyan. So what did he do? So no big deal. No, that's not what he did. He freed his slave. He freed his slave. Can you imagine? A slave cost a couple $1,000. I'm sure it cost more than that. Slaves cost a lot of money, I assume. He freed a slave just for a minyan. Unbelievable. We guys can't get out of bed, and he's freeing slaves. Unbelievable. Fine. Says the Gemara, how could you do that, Rabbi Eliezer? There's a mitzvah not to free your slave. It says, Lo'olam behem tavoidu. Lo'olam behem tavoidu. You're not allowed to free a slave. How could you do that? Oh, well, he did it for a good reason. He did it because there was a mitzvah. So the Gemara says, so what is the mitzvah? But there's a mitzvah not to free a slave. So the Gemara says, mitzvah derabim shiny, famous Gemara. Well, over here, it was a question of facilitating a mitzvah for a lot of people. We needed a minyan. So Rabbi Eliezer put in the scale, yes, it's an avera to free a slave. But if I free him, I have mitzvah derabim. I have a mitzvah that will be a communal mitzvah. So that Rabbi Eliezer side trumps the Asay Elohim and Tavaidu. Fine. The big question is, this Gemara is a Pella. What does that mean? What type of mitzvah are we saying? Mitzvah derabim. Oh, he had to free the slave. What mitzvah are we talking about here? Minyan, davening b'tzibur, kaddish, kedusha. All these things are rabbinical. None of this is deraisa, right? The whole concept of going to shul and davening in a minyan and having kaddish and having kedusha, all this is rabbinical. None of this is deraisa, right? Afterwards, I'll tell you the philosophy behind how the ingenuity of the Rabbanon, that the Rabbanon knew that the Jews were going to go to exile, so they set up a system that Jews have to live next to each other. There was a reason why we have this minyan and we have all these obligations. There was reasons for it. It was that there should be a Jewish social club when the Jews were not allowed into the Gentile social clubs. At least that we should have our own type of social club. But here in the main, it's very important to realize that Kaddish is Durabanan, Kedusha is Durabanan, Tila B'Tzibah is Durabanan, Minyan is Durabanan. So what's going on over here? What is going on over here that, well, it says in the Torah, a clear mitzvah essay, L'oilam behem tavoidu. And because of a mitzvah derabanan, that trumps, that negates, that countermands a mitzvah deraisa. So, amazingly enough, Tosfos and Rashi and the Rosh at the end says yes. A mitzvah derabanan could knock out a deraisa. A mitzvah derabanan derabim. They bring a proof. We know, God forbid, if someone dies on the last day of Yontif in America, you don't keep Avelis. Now, Avelis is deraisa. The first day of Avelis is deraisa. Yontif Sheni Shel Golios are Rabbanon. Right? The second day of Yontif is the Rabbanon. Right? And let's say someone, God forbid, dies on the 8th day of Pesach in America. So we don't do Avelis. What's going on here? Avelis is deraisa. The first day of Avelis is deraisa. Yontif Sheni is only Rabbanon. So we see from here this concept that even for a rabbinical mitzvah, it could trump a deraisa, which is hard to really understand that. But that's what they're talking here. Oh, the Rosh says, you know what? No, I have an answer to our problem. The Rosh says, you know what it could be? It could be talking that a drabanan never knocks a deraisa. No such thing. A D'Rabbanan is not Nakat D'Oraisa. Not a D'Rabbanan the Yachid, not a D'Rabbanan the Rabbim. All right, what do you do with the story of Rabbi Eliezer? You won't believe it. Rabbi Eliezer went to shul. It was Parshas Zachor that week. That week that there was no minyan, it was Parshas Zachor. And since Parshas Zachor is D'Oraisa, so therefore it wasn't a Din D'Rabbanan, not a Din D'Rabbanan. He freed the slave in order to do the Din D'Oraisa Parshas Zachor. That's what Rosh wants to entertain. And then he says, it's hard to believe that no one showed up to shul in Parshas Zachor. He says that. He says, it's hard to believe that Pump, the Melada came to shul and Pump, the story was Parshas Zachor. That's what the Gemara is talking about. Hard to believe. But he entertains that. But let's go with that. Let's go with that Mahalach. What is even the Rosh? What is the Rosh trying to answer? The Rosh is trying to answer, how could a D'Rabbanan not got a D'Oraisa? How could a D'Rabbanan, the necessity of a minyan D'Rabbanan, knock out a D'Oraisa Lemon Tavaidu? So what does the Rosh want to answer? No, you needed a minyan D'Oraisa. Why do you mean a minyan D'Oraisa? Because Parshas Zachor. What do we see from the Rosh? That he holds the exact opposite of the Ramban and the Rambam. He holds Midoraisa for Parshas Zachor. You need to go to shul, you need a Sefer Torah, and you need a minyan. And so it is brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch brings down, b'shem the Rosh basically, that Parshas Zachor is D'Oraisa in the sense that you need a minyan and you need a Sefer Torah. Now, this is. Wait a minute. So, we'll do what he just asked now. Let's just divide this up. This that you have to say it out loud, that's an open Gemara. It says peh. It says Zachor b'peh. This that you need to say for Torah is also almost an open Gemara. It's alluded in the pasuk in Beshalach. In Beshalach it says, V'yom Hashem Moshe Ksoiv Zois Zikoron Ba'Sefer. Ksoiv Zois Zikoron Ba'Sefer. So the Gemara is alluding to the fact that when you do Zikaron, the Parshas Zachor, you need a Sefer. So we have some, again, it's not exactly the pshat of the pasuk, but we have some biblical source for this concept. They need a Sefer Torah. But the Karen Ira and everyone else asks, but minyan? Where in the world do you see that you need minyan D'Oraisa? How would the Rosh say you need minyan D'Oraisa? You have to understand this. You go at home, you ask your Shabbat table, where is the only place you ever meet a minyan D'Oraisa? Only. The answer is only for Parshas Zachor. Maybe. That's the only place. The whole minyan. So your kid says, why do we go to shul, Dad? Slap him up. You go to shul. Don't ask questions. Right? But if you think about it, there's no place, there's no minyan D'Oraisa. The only time you need a minyan is maybe this. Oh, so the Karen Ira, and no one has a good answer. No one has a good answer where the source of the Rosh is that you need a minyan. So the Karen Ira wants to say like this, and this is really the crux of the shir, that the Karen Ira wants to say that what is the purpose of Parshas Zachor? This is going to be the crux of the shir. What is the agenda? Why does God want us to do Parshas Zachor? So the Karen Ira learns based on L'Shainas of Rishonim, it's not that God just wants you to remember what Amalek did. Oh, you should know there are anti-Semites in the world, and remember the world is a dangerous place, and there's Amalek, and look how low you could descend. No, that's not what God wants, just to remember that. He wants you to remember what Amalek did, and remember to destroy them, and to remember that you have to obliterate them. So part and parcel of mitzvah of Parshas Zachor is to remember what they did, and to remember you have to destroy them. That's Chiddush number one that the Karen Ira says. We'll get back to that in a minute. Chiddush number two is, which already is not such a big Chiddush, this din that we spoke last week, this din they have to obliterate Amalek. You have to destroy Amalek. Is that a din on a Yachid, or is that a din on a Sibur? Meaning, is it that a random person's got to walk around and try to Amalek and kill him? Or no? It means has a community with a melech, a king, has an army, they have to go out and wage war with Amalek. But there's no din of a vigilante walking around and just killing Amalekim. So this is an unusual machlokes. Many achrayim hold that it is a din on the tzibur only. And they base it because everyone knows the famous Gemara. When Yeshua went into Eretz Yisrael, God said you got to do three things. You got to appoint the king, you got to fight Amalek, and you got to build a Beit HaMikdash. So why do you got to appoint the king? It seems the point is appointing the king is a prerequisite to Amalek, because the whole point is it's not a vigilante type of situation. It's a king with an army, a tzibur fighting Amalek. So if you go with that mahalach, the Keren Aryeh says like this: since the whole point of Parshas Zachor, the whole point of is to remember to remember to destroy Amalek, and the whole din of to destroy Amalek is only a communal obligation. So if you take it to the hilt, it makes sense. Parshas Zachor has to be read in a community form. Because if the whole point of Parshas Zachor is to destroy Amalek, and you only destroy Amalek when you have a tzibur. So there's a svara that the whole din of Parshas Zachor is only to do it in a tzibur form, because the whole point is to facilitate a tzibur action. That's the Keren Aryeh's chiddush to explain the Rosh, why you need a minyan. So, two sides of the scale. We have the Ramban and the Rambam, the whole Parshas Zachor, except for speaking it out to your children, everything else is rabbinical. The other side of the equation, is the Rosh, who says, no, minyan is deraisa, Sefer Torah is deraisa, everything is deraisa. Says, this is brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch brings down, you have a guy who could only travel one time to the city. He could be in the city of Parshas Zachor, or he could be in the city for Megillah. That's it. These are the choices he has. He can have a minyan, either Parshas Zachor, or he can have a minyan Megillah, because he can only go, for whatever reason, he can only travel once. So says the Trumas Hadeshen, go for Parshas Zachor. Don't go for Megillah. It's more important to get to shul for Parshas Zachor, because since Zachor is deraisa and a minyan for Zachor is deraisa, according to the Rosh, Megillah is rabbinical, and definitely the minyan part of the Megillah, you don't really need a minyan for Megillah in the first place. It's only something virtuous. You don't really need it so much. So says the Trumas Hadeshen, Eifan Art, brought down the Shulchan Aruch, right? Trumas Hadeshen was like a later, one of the later Rishonim in the 1400s. Go to shul, Parshas Zachor. Make sure you get the minyan Parshas Zachor. Okay? Now.
Rabbi, the person you said before the Trumas Hadeshen, him, there's no chiyuv of destroying Amalek today. You don't have a king.
Okay. Leave that, yes. That's a good question. Leave it. I mean, we did say at the end of the day that it does apply. There is some application still, but it's a good question. Okay? Now, the truth is, so this is brought down, strict halacha. The truth is, the Mishnah Berurah argues on all this. I mean, it's a little bit funny how the Mishnah Berurah could do this, but he says that the Trumas Hadeshen is reading the Rosh wrong. He's saying that there's a wrong read in the Rosh. The Rosh never said that Parshas Zachor needs a minyan deraisa. The Mishnah Berurah says that all the Rosh meant was, what was the question? How could Rabbi Eliezer free a slave in order to facilitate Kaddish and Kedusha, which is all rabbinical? So the Rosh said maybe it was Parshas Zachor, and since Parshas Zachor has roots in the Torah, maybe that's like a stronger rabbinical requirement. I mean, if you look at the Lush of the Rosh, it applies it also a little bit. I mean, the Rosh never said that a minyan of Parshas Zachor is deraisa. The Rosh is on a scale. We're saying a chiddush in the Gemara. A mitzvah's essay can be knocked out by a d'rabbanan. The Rosh says maybe a low-level d'rabbanan can't knock out a mitzvah's essay. A high-level d'rabbanan, what would be a high-level d'rabbanan? Parshas Zachor was the minyan. Why is it a high-level d'rabbanan? Because at least Parshas Zachor has some source in the Torah. It's ikat tekanim, right? It has some source. It's source-based. So there, the Rosh says, but maybe for Kaddish and Kedusha, which has no connection to Deraisa, there you can't free a slave. Okay, so basically, the Mishnah Berurah says, Eifenart, he's arguing on the Trumat Hadeshen, and he says the Rosh never said it. So according to the Mishnah Berurah, there's no minyan deraisa ever. No concept at all. And according to the Trumat Hadeshen, read in the Rosh, there is a minyan deraisa by Parshas Zachor. And the Mishnah Berurah says openly, he would say, if you have a choice to go to the city for Parshas Zachor, or to go to the city for Megillah, you go for the Megillah. You don't go for Parshas Zachor. He argues on Trumat Hadeshen. Okay. Yeah, he's well, it's not the Shulchan Aruch is quoting the Trumat Hadeshen. He's arguing, yes. He's arguing that. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't quote the Shulchan Aruch quotes that, yes, at the end of the day, there's no, it's hard to believe because in another place, the Shulchan Aruch talks about, do you have to listen to the Kriyas Torah? And the Shulchan Aruch says, on Parshas Zachor, where you need a minyan d'oraisa, you better listen to Parshas Zachor. The Shulchan Aruch seems to be going like the Trumat Hadeshen, and that's why I said it's like hard to believe, but the Mishnah Berurah seems to be saying the whole thing is a mistake, that the Rosh never said that you need a minyan d'oraisa by Parshas Zachor. He just means that the minyan of d'oraisa, a minyan of Parshas Zachor, is on a higher level than a regular minyan, and your point is well taken. Okay, now, what will be a big nafkamina about this? We're going to talk about some big nafkaminas. The big nafkamina is like this. So you're at the shul, and you're in some backwards town, some in the hinterlands, and there are exactly 10 people at the minyan for Parshas Zachor, but one of them is a bar mitzvah boy. Just turned bar mitzvah. You know those cute little kids, squeaky little kids, the hats, they're sort of like hiding in their hats, the hats little kids, you know? And like, oh, we got 10 people, wonderful, gewaldig. We could do Parshas Zachor. Oh, but maybe the kid's not really bar mitzvah.
Yes,
No, what do you mean he's not bar mitzvah? He's 13. Yeah, but we all know in order to be bar mitzvah, it's not enough to be 13 in one day. You also have to have simanim. You have to have developed in maturity, and you have to have 2 pubic hairs, right? So if you don't want to get arrested, I don't suggest you check that out, right? So what are you going to do? What do you do? So you could ask, well, what do you do all the time? Oh, the answer is the Gemara deals with this. The Gemara says something called the Chazaka Derava. Chazaka Derava is, we assume that when a kid hits 13 in 1 day, we assume that he developed and he has the necessary maturity to be a gadol. He has the pubic hairs. That's what we assume. Chazaka Derava. The thing is like this. The Gemara says that we only rely on Chazaka Derava for rabbinical obligations. We do not rely on Chazaka Derava for Torah obligations. Okay? So, basically this. You come to shul, there are 10 people there, a little kid, just 13 the other day. No problem. Count him as a minyan, let him be the chazan. He can do Kriyas Torah. Maybe he doesn't have the pubic hairs. Maybe he doesn't have a simanim. It's rabbinical. All these things are rabbinical. So you can rely on the Drabanan. You can rely on Chazaka Derava. But if you learn that you need a minyan d'oraisa by Parshas Zachor, right? You can't rely on this kid. This kid may not be a gadol. And that's why many the shuls are very makbid that the Baal Korah who lanes has to have facial hairs. Once he has facial hairs, you know he's good to go. Right? So this is a big chumrah. We never let a kid lane by Parshas Zachor. So everyone thinks, because maybe he'll make a mistake. It has nothing to do with that. We're not sure he's a gadol. We don't know he's a gadol. So why for everything else aren't we worried about it? Because everything else is rabbinical. So for rabbinical, we rely on Chazaka Derava. So it comes like this. According to Trumat Hadeshen, you can't rely on a katan. Because according to Trumat Hadeshen, we can't rely on this questionable gadol. Because it's deraisa. According to the Mishnah Berurah, where he says there's no din that you need a Parshas Zachor deraisa, that you need a minion, you could rely on a chazaka, the Rava. Okay, that would be a nafkamina. Oh. Now, what we wanted to talk about now was, we'll see how it all is connected. What about women? What about women? And we'll see how this is all connected. Are women mechuyev in Parshas Zachor? We all know the minhag is women make themselves crazy, and they all end up going to Shul Parshas Zachor. Is there a chiyuv for that, or is there not a chiyuv for that? Is that something they have to? Is that something they don't have to do?
They have a chiyuv from Gilon.
What?
They have a chiyuv from Gilon.
Oh.
And we already compared Gilon.
Now, so right off the bat, you would say, right off the bat, I would say, no, of course not. Mitzvah say she's man grama. Of course women don't have to go to Shul Parshas Zachor. If mitzvah say she's man grama. We know women don't got to shake a lulav because it's time bound. We know women don't got to blow a shofar because it's time bound. That would be like my first reaction, right? Oh. So actually no one says this. No one says that's why a woman is patur. Why not? It's mitzvah is man grama. So there are different ways to answer. Rabbi Shai Berlin explains this, that it's the mitzvah Parshas Zachor. It's not once a year the mitzvah. The mitzvah of Parshas Zachor, the mitzvah of remembering what Amalek did, is perennial. It's always. It's always. You always have to remember what Amalek did to you. Once a year you need a booster shot. Once a year you gotta remind yourself so that you should continue remembering the rest of the year. For example, we know that after 12 months, Hameis Nishkach Me'alev. The Gemara says after 12 months you forget about, you get over the fact that your relative died. Hameis Nishkach Me'alev after 12 months. Right? We see that Shicha sets in after 12 months. We know, we learned about Mitzvah, that if you find an Aveda after 12 months, you're allowed to keep it. You assume that there was Vishor, we assume that there was Vishor Yish, right? Why is that? It's based on the pasuk, Nishkachti kemes belev, hayisi kekli oived. I was forgotten like a dead person. I was like a lost vessel. You see, it equates a dead person and a lost vessel. That after 12 months, just like you forget about dead people, after 12 months, something that's lost, you do yish. So it says in Rabbi Berlin, it's not that the mitzvah Parshas Zachor is once a year. Parshas Zachor is always. The mitzvah to remember is always. You just once a year, you have to give it an invigoration. You have to sort of give it a little bit of a booster. So that's why it's not called mitzvah shman grama. It's not called mitzvah shman grama. Another answer is why it's not called mitzvah shman grama. Mitzvah shman grama usually means you have to do it at a certain time in the year. You got to shake the lulav sukkahs, right? You shake the lulav Hanukkah time, it's the wrong religion, right? Right? You got to eat the shofar at a certain time of the year. Over here, you just have to remember it any time you want once a year. So is that called time bound? It's not limited to a certain time. It's just that you got to do it once a year. But it's not this time or that time. You can do it anyone. It happens to me. We do it. We do it right before Purim. But in principle, it's not designated to a specific time. That's another reason why it's not called the mitzvah shezman grama. The best teretz is because it does say, people don't realize this, Parshas Zachor is also a lav. It says Zachor Eis Shasach HaMalek, and it says Lo Tishkach. So there is a lav. Don't forget. So a woman for sure has to keep a lav. There's no such thing as a lav shezman grama that women are patur. So once we know the women have Lo Tishkach, the lav, seemingly they would have the assay too. Seemingly it's a couple. It goes together. Be the may, it would seem clear like day, women are chayiv in Parshas Zachor. Okay? The problem is, you open up a chinuch, the chinuch says quite explicitly, women are patur from Parshas Zachor. Don't go to shul. Women do not got to go to shul Parshas Zachor. Why not? What does the chinuch say? This is what he says. He says, the whole point of Parshas Zachor is to make sure they remember what Amalek did. And to remember what Amalek did, and that we should go out and fight them. Just like the Karen Nori said before. And women are not b'nei milchama. Women don't have to fight. Right? So since women don't have to fight, so what do they have to remember? There's nothing for them to remember. Right? What do they want? Right? They're not going to go out and fight. That's what the chinuch paskins. Chinuch is a rishon. On this, the minchas chinuch, what they did, the minchas chinuch has two critiques. He says, first of all, chinuch, how in the world do you know that The point of Parshas Zachor is to remind the people to go and fight. That's what the Chinuch is saying. The point of Parshas Zachor is in order that everyone should remember that you got to kill Amalek. Don't forget you got to kill Amalek. Once a year, we remind you. How do you know that? Maybe Parshas Zachor has nothing to do with just to remember that there are bad people in the world, or to remember how there are how evil Amalek was, or like the Medrash says, remember how bad you were. Right? You ever go to Mashkiach in the Yeshivas, and they talk about Amalek, and the Mashkiach says, and you know how Amalek is? They're like, you're Amalek. Like, I have to, people go off the derech, Yeah, you're the Amalek, you guys, because you don't do this and you don't do that, right? Doesn't work it out. I've heard many schmoozim like that. I'm like, oh great, I'm Amalek. No. But the Medrash does say this. The Medrash does say the reason why we remember Parshas Amalek is, why did Amalek come? Do you remember the story? What happened? What did the Jews say? Hayesh Hashem b'kebeinu alay. After all the reasons that God did, it's almost like unbelievable. They said, I wonder if God is with us. I wonder if God went golfing or something, left us behind. So the Medrash says, a part of the point of remembering of Zecher Amalek, it's to remember our deficiencies, our failures. So that's critique number one. The Minchas Chinuch says, Chinuch, how are you so sure that the point of Parshas Zachor is to remember to kill Amalek? How do you know that? How do you know what the reasons are? Maybe it could be 10,000 other reasons. Okay? Second question that the Minchas Chinuch says, women don't go to war? Women don't go to war? What are you talking about? Women go to war. What do you mean women don't go to war? It's an open mission that women go to war. It's an open mission in Saita. The Mishnah in Saita Daf Mem something. Mem Dalid. It says over there, it's talking there about, if you open a Parshas Kitzeitze and Parshas Shoftim, it talks about all the people get dispensations. You just got married, you got engaged, you planted a vineyard, you're in the first years after the planting of the vineyard, a whole group of people, right? It says in Mishnah, all these people get these dispensations, but all these people get like furloughs, or they could dodge the draft. That's the Mechemes Rishus. Aber Mechemes Mitzvah, hakol yoitzin, afilu chasen michedroi v'kala michipasa. When it's the Mechemes Mitzvah, everyone is going. The groom and the bride, they're going to fight. So what's the Mechemes Mitzvah, my friends? What's the Mechemes Rishus? Mechemes Mitzvah is Kibbutz Eretz Yisrael, Mechias Amalek. Sure, that's a mitzvah. What's Mechemes Rishus? It says there when David HaMelech wanted to expand the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, right? We all know Surya, right? Kibbutz Yochid of David HaMelech, famous Gemara, the Brachlik, he goes to all the Gemaras. They came to David HaMelech, hey, we have no Parnasa. He says, so go, conquer some more land. Basically, it's something called Mechemes Rishus, not obligatory wars. And then there's Mechemes Mitzvah. Mechias Amalek is like par excellence Mechemes Mitzvah. That's it. The Gemara brings it down here openly. Rashi brings it down openly. So, says the Minchas Chinuch, I don't know what you're talking about, Chinuch. You're saying that women don't go to war? Women go to war! Trust me, they go to war. Open Mishnah, even Kala Mechupasa. So two questions. First, the Minchas Chinuch says on the Chinuch, I don't know how you're equating Chiras Amalek to Mechias Amalek. Who says they have to do with each other? Even if you're right, Chinuch, that women don't go to war and they don't do Mechias Amalek. Who says Chiras Amalek has to do with that? And then he says your whole entire premise is wrong. Women do go to war. Oh. So the Zayd says women have to go to war. That's what he says. Okay. Now the problem is that really what the Minchas Chinuch holds? That women should go to war? I mean, you go through Tanakh, you don't really see too many women fighting. It doesn't seem that way that women go to war. But on the other hand, we do have a Mishnah here that says black and white. Oh, So the Rishash answers the question, the Rabbi answers the question. Most, not all, most Achronim say women do not go to war. They do not go to war. It just means over here, all it means over here is that women do have to be, they have to facilitate the war effort. They got to be cooks. Maybe they could be nurses. That's the way the Rabbi learns and the Rishash learns. It's a little bit different gears. According to Rishash, he says the women should go out to the battlefield, not fight, and encourage their husbands. According to Rabbi, his lashon is more to do work in the background, but not that women ever go to war.
What about the tools, the guns, the swords?
The doctor told me yesterday, it's just random, just mamash min hashamayim. He says, I told him I'm going to talk about this, and he says, well, look at the Gemara in Nazir. The Gemara in Nazir says, how do you know, Menayim Shloi Teisha Isha B'Klei Zayin L'Machama? Rabbi Yaakov says, how do you know women should not wear armaments, should not wear armory, should not have weapons? Tamalei Malay Klei Gever Al Isha. It's an open Gemara. And Rashi goes to, this is what Dr. pointed out, Rashi says, we know the famous story that Yael killed Sisera, right? How did Yael kill Sisera? He took a peg. She got him drunk, and basically he fell asleep. He took a peg and impaled him, right? Why did she take a sword? So you say, she didn't have a sword. No! Rashi says she had a sword, but she didn't want to use a sword because of this halacha, that a woman shouldn't be walking around with weapons. Women shouldn't be walking around with weapons. So this is a very strong proof that even though the Gemara says over here that a kala fights Mechemes mitzvah, it doesn't mean she actually fights. It just means she facilitates, she does Sheirut Lumi. What's Sheirut Lumi? And nowadays, the frum girls who are not Charedim, they will do service for the country, but they'll do Sheirut Lumi, which is this national service. And then you can ask me a question, well, why did the Haredi girls do Sheirut Lumi? That's a discussion for later on. But if, let's say you're you'll see, you'll have women that go to the army, that we see that. Most of them are not religious at all. And the Chardalniks, or the Mizrachniks, the girls do join the army, but they do background work. They don't actually fight. They do Sheirut Lumi. They do national service, whatever that may be, teaching in schools or whatever it may be. For whatever reason, Charedim don't do anything. That's not a discussion for now. So that's basically what it's saying. Kala Mechapasa means, it means Sheirut Lumi. Okay. So now, if this is so, now we can understand the chinuch a little better. So now it's not clear what the argument between the minchas chinuch and the chinuch is. It could be the chinuch holds, since the women aren't on the front lines, they don't have the mitzvah mechias amalek. It could be the minchas chinuch holds, no, but they do have to fight. They do have to be part of the war effort, like we saw the mission of the Saita. So they could be considered chayav mechias amalek. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what the Zayda held. Did the minchas chinuch hold? Did he read this Mishnah literally that women actually fight? Or no, he knew all this. He knew that women don't actually fight. He just meant, but don't say that they have no connection to war at all. Rabbi Chinuch, Paskins, women don't have to go to Parsha Zachar, and that is the accepted view amongst most of the Achronim. I know everyone does go to Parsha Zachar, women, but the accepted view, why not? A, says the Chinuch, pick two Chidushim. One is, the mitzvah of Zachar is to facilitate Mechias Amalek. The whole point of Zachar is to facilitate Mechias Amalek. Two, women don't have Mechias Amalek. Since they don't have Mechias Amalek, they don't either have the mitzvah of Schira. Okay, fine. Now, how much time we have? What? Okay, great. I have two more things. I don't know if I get the second thing. So now, this is going to tie into, unbelievably, to Megillah 2. Do women have a chiv to go to Megillah? So you'll say, no, of course not. Mitzvah Seish's Man Grama. This is a classic Mitzvah Seish's Man Grama. This is You got to do it Purim time. It's once a year. It's the exact time. Seemingly, women should not have a chiyuv of Megillah. The Gemara says this. Women should not have a chiyuv of Megillah. But the Gemara says, here's Rabbanan did obligate the women. Why? Famous Gemara. Since the nest happened to them, they were part of the nest. Even though it's a mitzvah, women have to go to shul and hear the Megillah. What does Af Hein Ba'isa Nes mean? That's the big machlokes in the Rishonim. Either it means that they were also in a precarious situation, they were in danger to get killed by Amalek, by Haman, or it means Af Hein Ba'isa Nes means they're the ones who did the whole nest. The whole entire salvation happened through Esther. The Gemara uses this 3 times Af Hein Ba'isa Nes. One is women have to do Chanukah Neiros. Af Hein Ba'isa there too. Is it because they were definitely affected by the Yavanim? On the contrary, one of the big terrible decrees were Boil Hegeman Tchila. They were being raped consistently by the Greeks. Or we all know who did the miracle of Hanukkah. Yehudis, which is no Gemara, by the way. There's no Gemara like that. But we all know that the Yehudis say the same type of story that by Yael of Sisra. And also, where else does the Gemara use Af Hein Ba'isa Nes? By Dal Kaisis. The Chayr women should not have to drink Dal Kaisis. Well, right? Why should I have to drink it? But we say Af Hein Ba'isa Nes there too, and there too have 2 pshatim. They were saved from Egypt, or B'schus Nashim Sidkanius Negalu. They were the ones that brought out the salvation. Here's the day. Megillah, women are chayav to read the Megillah. So you figure, great, women have to read Megillah. So let's say, you're a bacher, you just got married and you've been learning the same street block for the last 10 months, and your wife went to BJJ and she could read the Megillah, no problem. She could read the Megillah. Could she be might for you? Could she read it for you? Why not? What's the problem? You're chayav, she's chayav, let her read it for you. So the Shulchan Aruch brings down, according to one Shita, yes, but the Bahag says no, famously no, a woman cannot lane for a man. And everyone is beside themselves trying to figure out why. Why can a woman lane for a man? What's the problem? Women are chayav Megillah, men are chayav Megillah. So why can a woman lane for a man? So, based on what we said before, they give an answer. The Avnei Nezer, the famous Avnei Nezer, and the famous Mar Cheshes say like this. Someone will stop you in the street. What is the point of Megillah? What is it? What does it comprise of? So, the Avnei Nezer Mar Cheshes say it comprises of 2 things. 2 things. One is Schiras Amalek, meaning we have a din Torah of Chor Esar Sha'asachar Amalek. It would make a lot of sense to say that the Rabbanan said we were going to have, we have the Parashat Zachor, what we leave on the Torah. Rabbanan said we're going to enact, because of Haman, to remember what Haman did. Haman was from Amalek. We're going to have like a rabbinical Parashat Zachor. We're going to have a rabbinical concept of remembering what Amalek did to us in its new iteration, in its new version, the Haman version. So Megillah is actually a facsimile of Parashat Zachor. It has a component of Zachor as Eish Asar Amalek. That could be. It's a chiddush. They bring textual proofs for that. I don't have time. They bring proofs to it to show that Megillah has this component. And then there's the Pasha component. What's the Pasha component? Persimmon Nisa. We want to thank God that He saved us. Nothing to do with Amalek per se. We want to thank God that we were saved. It's a way of Halal. Like the Gemara says, Megillah is a Purim form of Halal. We want to thank God, Persimmon Nisa. So let's say that this is true. That Megillah has both aspects. An aspect of remembering what Amalek did to us, to reinvigorate and to reinforce our hatred for Amalek. Look, they're still doing what they're doing. And Persimmon Nisa. So now, if there's 2 components, if the women also have to do Megillah, based on what we said before, women will only be chayav in one of those components. Why? Because we just said women, according to the chinuch and according to most achronim, don't have to go to shul on Parashat Zachor. Don't have to. Most told they don't have to. So if they don't have to, There's no Zechiras Amalek. So in the Megillah, that component of Zechiras Amalek wouldn't apply to women. So let's put a woman against the man. The women have to read Megillah? Yes. The men have to read Megillah? Yes. But men have two components. One is, remember what Amalek did to you. Two is, to thank God, the Pesumei Nisa. But women would only have the Pesumei Nisa. So it comes out, women have a lower level chiyuv of Megillah. It's a lower level. So now the Shulchan Aruch makes sense. Why a woman can't be mitzi a man. Why can't a woman be mitzi a man? Because a woman reading the Megillah is a lower level. And that's always the rule. What's always the rule? Who can be mitzi you? Only someone who's on the same level. A katan can't be mitzi a gadol, right? Correct? Obviously. So a woman is considered a lower level of the man. They're not the same level of chiyuv, so she can't lane for the man. This would be a way to explain this. Oh. Now, last but not least, actually I missed the whole big part, but maybe we'll leave that for next time. We can have now a briska chumrah. A briska chumrah. Pasha Zachar. Who should be the Baal Korah? Not a woman, obviously. Not a katan. Not someone who just became a bar mitzvah. Also not a Levi, not a Kohen. Also not a Levi, not a Kohen.
They don't go to war.
Why? They don't go to war.
It's not soldiers.
The Mishnah says openly, it's an open Rambam. Even from a chemetz mitzvah. Even from a chemetz mitzvah, Levi and Kahanim don't go to war. That's what the Rambam says. Why didn't the Levim get part of Nachas? Why didn't Levim get part of Eretz Yisrael? What did the Rambam say at the end of the Shemitah? You know they get part of Eretz Yisrael? Because they didn't fight. They didn't fight for it, so they didn't get it. So we see even from a chemetz, so l'chayra, if we're right, that women don't have to go to shul Pasha Zachar, because the whole point of Zachar is only to fight. And since women don't have to fight, they don't have the mitzvah Zachar, so seemingly the same thing should be for a Levi and a Kohen, and therefore a Levi and Kohen should not be the Baal Korah for Pasha Zachar, because maybe they don't have the mitzvah of Pasha Zachar. Because the whole Zachar is to facilitate the fight, they don't got to fight. Oh. Right? You're right. According to this logic, according to this reasoning, they shouldn't, a Levi and a Kohen shouldn't lane for a Yisrael. Right. This is very hard to believe. You never heard that you go to, that's what should come out. If you take it to the hilt, this is what should be. Oh. The only way to answer this up is, this is not my husband, this is the Binyan Shleima says this. The Cheshik Shleima says, yeah, Levim Kahanim, they shouldn't be the one who read Pasha Zachar, because just like women don't read Pasha Zachar. The question is this a right equation? For example, I'll give you an example. Also Megillah based on the Shtikl Torah, my Shtikl Torah, that Megillah has two things. Yes, the truth is the fundamental difference between a Levi, a Kohen, and a woman. If we're saying a woman is not b'nei Machama, it's not a deferment. It's not like they get some dispensation. No, women are not intrinsically b'nei Machama. They don't have the muscle power. They're not supposed to go to war. It's not for them. It's just not sneezed. It's not modest. It's not right. It's just not the way it should be, right? Levi and Kohen, they are b'nei Machama. They could fight.
It just happens.
It just happens to me. They get a rabbinical dispensation. You know, I forgot the tour for Vietnam. There's a number for that. You know, they got a rabbinical tour, right? So maybe you could say that's not enough. That's not enough to say that since they don't fight, they don't have the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek, so they don't have schira, because schira is to facilitate fighting. It's not so clear because they maybe don't fight for side reasons, but in principle they're b'nei Machama. And I assume, let's say a Levi comes and says, you know what, Koil's not for me. It's just not for me. We're going to say you can't fight, you can't go to war. It's fair. If a woman says, Beis Yaakov is not for me, I want to go to the army, we're not going to accept her. We're not accepting her to the army. We'll say, you know what, do something else, maybe do work on the side. We said, you can facilitate, we won't let you fight. But a Levi says, you know, it's just not for me, I can't sit in Koil. You know, we think Levim were in the base. The Levim, their main job was to be in Koil. They weren't sitting in the base Mikdash all day and all night. How many Levim do you think you need in the base of Mikdash? You don't need all Levim sitting in the base of Mikdash. They would learn most of the time, and they would go to base Mikdash a couple of weeks in a year. But a Levi comes and says, it's not for me. So he can't go to war. He could go to war. He could fight. It's a deferment. We said it's a ptor. He gets a reprieve, but if he wants, he could. So, for example, does a Levi and Kohen have a mitzvah of peer review? Do women have a mitzvah of peer review? Right. We know women don't have to peer. Well, how do you know women don't have to do peer review? Why not? Because it says peer review v'kavshuha, milas ha'ar v'kavshuha, and the Gemara makes a drasha peer review v'kavshuha. It supplies people who are kavish, people who go to battle, people who conquer. So since it's juxtaposed in the pasuk, peer review milas ha'ar v'kavshuha. Again, the simple reading of kavshuha means to enhance the world or to advance the world. But they read kavshua means and conquer, and since women don't conquer, they don't have the mitzvah of peer review. So you're going to say the same thing, that Levim and a Kohen and Levi also have no mitzvah of peer review? Because, hey, they're not kavshua. We never heard such a thing that a Kohen and Levi. So what are we saying? By peer review, it says kavshua, that just tells you the type. They're talking about the type of person. A woman doesn't go to war. Men go to war. So maybe we can apply the same thing by Mechir Samag. But you can make a differentiation. No, peer review really has nothing to do with war. So there it's just like an outside limud. It's just an outside teaching. What does war got to do with peer review? So you say kavshu is just a way to say what type of species, what type of, it's just a way to decide which class. But maybe by Mechir Samag, bottom line is most Kohanim and Levim don't go to war. So bottom line is maybe they don't have Mechir Samag and maybe they don't have Chir Samag. The Binyan Shleim is not clear if a Kohen or Levi should be a Nuchumrah, if he should read the Parsha Zachar, just like women not, and according to extension to what we're saying is also a by Megillah. Oh. Bottom line is, they bring a raya from Yerushalmi. What's the raya from the Yerushalmi? Because the Yerushalmi, Rabbi Eliezer was, what is this? Rabbi Eliezer was once approached by a rich woman, a noble woman, a matron, and she said, "Hey, Rabbi Eliezer, I just was reading the Parsha of Egel, and I noticed some people got killed by in a plague. Some people Moshe Rabbeinu killed. Some people drank the waters, and after they crushed up the egel, and they made to drink the waters." So she asked Rabbi Eliezer, why some people died this way, some people died that way, and Rashi and Chumash asked this question. So Rabbi Eliezer says, leave me alone, go back to your sewing. That's what Rabbi Eliezer says. Ein chachma b'isha ela pilcha. He didn't want to deal with this lady. The next day, his son comes to Rabbi Eliezer and says, Rabbi Eliezer, because you were not so courteous to this lady, I just lost 300 pounds of meiser, because she used to give me the meiser. And because of you, Dad, now I lost my parnasa. That's the Yerushalmi. But what do you see from there? Rabbi Eliezer was a Levi. Because if she says, oh, I lost the meiser, Dad, I lost the meiser because of you, we see Rabbi Eliezer was a Levi, right? Because the son of the Levi means his father's a Levi. Who was the story in Brachis that wanted to free the slave? Rabbi Eliezer. And the Rosh says, why did Rabbi Eliezer want to free the slave? Maybe because of Parshas Zachar. And seemingly, he was freeing it for himself. So if you put all the pieces together, it says that Rabbi Eliezer wanted to free the slave in order that he should do Parshas Zachar, according to the Rosh. So we see that a Levi is chayiv in Parshas Zachar. This is an outside proof to show that even though a woman is not chayiv in Parshas Zachar, but a Levi, since in principle he could do war, even though he gets some deferment, he is chayiv in Parshas Zachar. Where are we holding? Okay, we'll stop. My boy say I have another 10 minutes, but I have Rachmanis on you, so we'll leave this. So bottom line is, anyone here married, don't go home and tell your wife, oh, Rabbi Fine said you've got to do Parshas Zachar. You know, it is true. Most Achronim hold that women do not have to go. Most Achronim don't hold that they do not have to go. But the Minchas Chinuch says, the Zayda says openly women are chayiv, and therefore women are makbid to go for Parshas Zachar. But we are makbid, a woman will never be mitzvah man. In Megillah, a woman will never be mitzvah man. Okay, everybody, so we'll stop over here.